Good evening and welcome to a special edition of To The Point. Initially, on behalf of myself and To The Point crew, I'd like to wish Egyptians and Muslims worldwide a very, very happy Bayram. On this occasion, we will be discussing a positive note in economic development here in Egypt. Where is Egypt heading with the magnitude of projects being implemented right now? With us in the studio is Dr. Ibrahim Helal, Professor of Electrical Power Systems at Ain Shams University. A pleasure to have you with us.
It's my pleasure as well.
We have lots of projects that are underway. Lots of projects in different engineering fields, if we can put it that way. We have lots of projects in energy, lots of projects in construction, lots of projects in oil and gas. I mean, so many different projects. Initially, how do you feel about the revamping of our infrastructure, if we can put it that way?
Yeah, first let me share you the congratulating all the Egyptians with the Bayram, and we wish all things will go in the best way for all Egyptians and for Egypt. As a matter of fact, the period we are living in at the moment, is unprecedented. It's, I mean, we haven't seen the magnitude of projects in terms of the number and the magnitude and even the expenses. So if you look to the roads, to the oil and the gas, as you said, to even education sector, healthcare sector, so everywhere you can find a touch with these kind of mega projects. This development have never been seen before, never thought of to go on these all directions, and it will make a real difference, because if you start with some direction and you concentrate on that direction, and still so many neighboring and assisting fields which are not entertaining the same touch of development, of course your effort perhaps will go in vain. But the integration and the comprehensive approach with all directions make the real benefit and consolidates the results of the progress and the development we see.
Let's talk about something close to you, which is projects in the energy sector.
Yeah.
A few years ago, we actually had to rationalize the use of electricity. How do you see the development, and how do you see us progressing also on the renewable front? How can we have a proper marriage between renewable and other sources of energy to ensure we have not just ample supply, but ample supply for the ambitious developmental program that we want to carry out?
We all know that no development without electricity.
Yes.
And if you look past to the history of the electrical shortage or the electricity shortage that we have suffered from during years of 2010, 12, 13, so it was a terrible situation that we all have to run through the power cut for specific periods of time of the day in order to manage not being falling in a total shutdown or blackout in the country. If you look now, the situation is completely different. Yesterday the maximum demand load was registered up to 32,000 megawatt, while we are producing more than 45,000 megawatt. So we have a big reserve at the moment. And of course, if you look to the development and the projects for the industrial areas everywhere, we can never go through or build these kind of industrial cities and zones, industrial parks everywhere we hear about, without having enough electrical power supply. In terms of the renewable energy, of course, we have gone through a big development in the solar energy in the south of Egypt, in Bimban.
Yes.
We have one of the biggest projects in the solar energy now, 2,000 megawatt, which is a huge, project worldwide. I mean, with the measures of this standard, it's one of the biggest worldwide. Also, we are continuing to develop in Za'afarana lots of projects or extensions for the wind energy supply. So we have, having a big share of the electricity coming from these renewable resources. Clean supply, gift from God, no cost almost. But
how does this impact our economy overall? How is this influencing us? How is this, for example, now we even export some electricity. I mean, how does this work within our economic reform system?
As I mentioned, the electricity is one of the essential, columns for any economic development. As you mentioned, the exporting for the excess energy to neighboring countries like Libya, Jordan, Sudan, even Saudi Arabia. We have now, building a tie line between Saudi Arabia and Egypt in order to exchange energy in the rush time. So, of course, selling, the energy is one point. Developing industries and agricultural projects is another point. Now we are, reclaiming, about 100,000 acres in south of Egypt and in Minya. All these projects requires a lot of electricity.
Yes.
And without electricity, you can never go for these kind of developments, agricultural, industrial, and all the activities we need the electricity.
When we talk about electricity and energy, how is this going to be attractive to the foreign investor? Because there was the time, for example, when in the media you would talk about rationalizing electricity.
Yeah.
Definitely it was not something, it was not music in anyone's ears as a foreign investor to come and inject money, and he would have a problem with operating the factory, for example.
Exactly.
How is this impacting our investment?
You can never attract an investor without good roads, without good ports, without, of course, energy, continuous, power supply to with the reasonable prices. I mean, no investor will come except if you save this kind of services in easy way and with rational price to attract them. Of course, beside some laws and facilities in terms of routine acceptances and endorsement for the business plans and things like that. So without these kind of services, how can you find an investor coming to the country?
What about the labor, the quality of the labor?
This is a good point, because actually all these kind of projects requires well and trained and skilled laborers. And unfortunately, with the technical education that we have in Egypt, still a lot of effort has to be done for this vocational, especially for vocational education. Still need more attention and more support to upgrade the level of curricula, to attract the students to this kind of education and to change the culture for the Egyptians, that this kind of education is not less than any other kind of education. Yeah, you touched the point, because actually still a lot of effort to be done in this direction.
What about when this is the labor, but what about the university graduates? Because there is a lot of demand in the future for lots of qualified engineers, not just in Egypt,
Yeah.
but in the world at large. I think we will reach a stage whereby countries will be competing for qualified engineers, especially a country like Egypt, whereby you have a large base of young people, and compared to Europe, for example, that is suffering, that they have mostly the larger age, so to speak. The quality of the engineer that we need in the future, are our schools training them in the latest disciplines needed to be scientifically advanced?
A lot of effort actually has been carried out in this direction. You know, it's since 2006, 2006, I was, you know, chairing the quality assurance unit in Ain Shams Engineering, Faculty of Engineering, and lots of, you know, aspects for enhancing the quality and the process of education for engineers in particular has been done through these, you know, decades, past decades for education. Now we have lots of, you know, well-educated graduates of engineering in particular, because actually I'm talking about engineering as my specialty, but of course in other directions, other specialties, you can find a lot of them. But what we really need is to focus more on the vocational and the, you know, technological, you know, education, more than focusing on
who should be doing this? Because the country has some vocational centers, but at the same time, what about the corporations, the companies? Should they be responsible also because for training qualified labor in different sectors?
Actually, we started this kind of cooperation between the corporations and the Ministry of Education in Mubarak Call schools, if you remember this kind of education, and you know, the mutual, you know, benefit by educating, you know, the students, vocational, you know, students, and training, you know, the rest of the week in the factories itself, to give them a real touch with the reality of industry, has been already, and it does exist in our education system, but it needs more development. And we have even schools in factories. You can find lots of these big names you have heard about, okay, who established technical schools, and it offers a certificate, you know, a diploma for, you know, textile, a diploma for electrical equipment industry. So we do have, and don't like to mention some particular names, but I know that there are, you know, a school and factory, and under the supervision for both, from both Ministry of Education and Ministry of Industry and the industries, our factories itself, you know. So we do have this now.
What should we be concentrating on in the future? What kind of qualified personnel you think we should be, if you were to advise someone, this is where you inject more money now, this is the sector where you need to develop because this is the future?
As you say, the education, and especially for the vocational education, need more attention. And what we need in this particular kind of education is to establish the coordination between the different concerned parties, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Higher Education. You know, this kind of education is shared among lots of, you know, ministries and authorities, and need kind of coordination in order to have to put all of them in one streamer to get a good qualified, you know, laborers and graduates from this kind of education.
Which sectors, in your opinion, are the future of Egypt? Which sectors should Egyptians and non-Egyptians invest into?
Egyptians, investors, of course, this country is, I consider as a wealthy country, okay? Because actually wealth doesn't mean only having money, but it having, minds, having, intellectuals, and having natural resources, having got climate, I presume that, the Egyptians, we have to start with first, and we have a lot of, sincere and nationalist, investors who have started in different arenas and different directions, and they are yielding, results we can touch. Look, for example, for the electrical industry, we have giant, electrical manufacturers now invading even Europe, Africa, Asia with their products, and their names are trademarks in these, areas of the world. So we do have, the Egyptian investors, but we need to ease, some of the, and to relax some of the, legislations and, laws, and to give some incentives and encouragement for the people to be involved in this process.
The culture. Because when it comes to vocational training, the culture to accept that you don't have to finish university to be qualified. The market needs a university graduate, and it needs even more, a qualified labor.
Yeah. The culture, as you said, need, a lot of effort from everyone. You as media, of course, will do some part of that. But also the system can be changed in education in such a way to equate between, those who have gone to this line of education and the other line. How can be done? This can be done simply by giving the opportunity for the people who went to this direction of vocational education to switch over at any time to the other normal education, to get bachelor degree, and so, not to make it very strict, okay, that who takes this direction of education will never be in the other. No, the switching over can be changed in easy way to make the people at least confident, even if they don't go, but at least they know they can go anytime and to switch and to get another degree. So this is another way. The look for the people, looking down to some, degrees or some diplomas and so, we have to get rid of that. And I think we are changing now because people now are looking for a better standard of living, no matter, what kind of certificate or diploma he is holding, So, it takes time, but there are a lot of effort in this direction.
We've developed a lot of roads. How do you see that influencing our economy, the infrastructure, the lots of roads, lots of bridges, lots of transportation means?
Yeah, that's, for example, if you are living in Cairo and your manufacturing facility is in Al-Ashr min Ramadan, before you used to go with almost 1 hour and a half or 2 hours and wasting a lot of time and the effort and go even frustrated and tired, to start your work with. Now it takes less than 30 minutes to go an big industrial city that absorbs a lot of labor coming from Cairo and the neighboring, cities in that. So, of course, feeling, comfortable when you are going to your office, to your business, even to your entertainment, areas. It goes without saying, the productivity of the personnel will of course be increasing, will be more focusing on the job he is doing rather than focusing on how to reach this job location.
What about the new cities? One of the things that President Sisi was adamant on achieving as well is new cities, especially the specialized cities. I mean, you have in Damietta a city for
Yes.
furniture, for example. I mean, very, very specialized cities.
Yes.
How do you feel about that?
It's very good idea, because actually this, makes a kind of, creating and establishing, a guard for some particular industries, especially with the historic one, like in Damietta, as you referred to. And other, in Arubeki, for example, there are a lot of, factories has been established in Sadat city. A lot of, textile and other manufacturing, facilities are being now developed in these kind of cities. The point is, we have to create an integrated society with these cities. I mean, it's of course one step is to establish the manufacturing facilities and the factories and so on. And the other step is to have all the services, and all requirements for a person to take a decision to go and live in this area. Schools, hospitals, education for his kids, all these kind of, I mean, this need some, more focus in order to create a comprehensive and a complete, attracting society for a person like, used to live all his life in Cairo, for example, to take a decision, no, I'm going to live in Sadat city. It has everything. Very good education for my kids, very good health care facilities I can go to anytime. Even the entertaining, facilities are also existing there. So, of course, once all of these integrated together, lots of people will migrate from the congested cities to these newly developed cities.
We talked about the energy, we talked about the cities. What about the new universities? Because this is also one of the things that we see. And for the first time, we see a marriage between the Egyptian educational system and one of the faculties in a prominent university, because you don't get the whole university, but a specific faculty. And the idea of being in the capital or in main cities is no longer also the issue, because now you have faculty that can be in Alamein, for example, another one in different areas. How do you feel this will contribute to educational development in Egypt?
Yeah. Well, we have lived lots of years with very limited number of universities, unfortunately. If you look now, we have lots of private universities which are established by, specific investors, of course. It should be, non-profitable organizations, but still very expensive in order to maintain this kind of universities. So we have lots of, this kind of universities. But in the meanwhile, if you look, for example, we have now almost 10 national universities are being built at the moment, newly, which we call الجامعات الأهلية. Okay?
Yes.
What I don't know the translation, maybe the public or national university. So are being built at the moment, and at the same time, which is a big boost to the university education in Egypt. You look, for example, as you said, the dual degrees are being, offered from Egyptian and, abroad universities in England, in Russia, in US, and whatever. We have seen this model lots, and now in different universities you can find it, this kind of dual degrees in Germany and other countries. there is a big, movement in this direction, and this has been pushed, ahead by this, number of universities, national universities I mentioned, which are being built at the moment.
How do you see the prospects for Egypt? We might have a foreign investor now, someone who's interested in investing in Egypt. What message would you be directing to him? What kind of prospects do you think we have?
We all noted that our country has been really changed positively for the past, 6-7 years. It is a big, development that, the most optimistic, person never dreamed about, in all directions at the same time, infrastructure, in education, in healthcare, and yes, the people may be a bit suffering, and under some pressure, it's normal.
Part everywhere. Of the price to pay for the reform.
Exactly. And if you look even to the well-developed countries, do you think they are, living without pressure? They think without, pain and patience. We are building the country, and it's being built, and it's a good opportunity to be done at the moment. We will never, if you go to any place, if you go just a few steps from here, you look right and left to you, no area has not been touched by development. No area has not been, no field has not been touched with, a boost from the government at the moment. I'm very optimistic. I ask, all the young, personnel to think serious about building this country. I have been once, in Canada and got my degree over there. And at one time I had to choose between getting back to my country or staying over there, like, lots of people has done that. But I took the decision, and I believe now after almost 25 years, I took the right decision.
You just raised a very, very important issue, because there is the issue of the brain drain.
Yeah.
Not only do you train people and they go outside, but even some of them in certain universities, you offer them scholarships and they go get trained and don't come back. How can we protect ourselves so that the qualified people contribute locally?
Look, the people look to the situation here and there. At the end of the day, they will take, put their, benefits, and their priority is their small family and, how he will live and the standard of living. The situation now, I'm positive when I'm saying that, is attracting more, not only even the people who are going recently abroad, but the people who lived perhaps in abroad for 20 or 30 years are now thinking serious to get back to the country. They are finding in here, all what they are looking for. Now the education is being developed, the health care is being well developed, the infrastructure is way better than they left the country, and even the entertaining, areas they are seeing, and above all, the feeling of, content and the nationalism. Everyone has a one country to be attached with and to be proud of. Egypt now is attracting lots of the people who dreamed abroad, maybe 20 or 30 years back, and getting back. I see that myself, and I know by name, some people who lived in the United States or in Germany for 20 and 30 years, and now they look and find Egypt is way attracting to them, better than staying over there.
Technological advancement. How do we compare to other countries?
You travel And I travel, although this crisis of...
We used to travel.
We used to travel, yeah. I don't see, a big, difference in technology when I go to Germany or to the United States or to the England, which I don't see in Egypt in here. I'll tell you a story. I was doing my PhD for almost in my master degree was in 1988, and by that time, 1988, I was able to design and implement and test in laboratory a microcontroller, a microprocessor-based relay, which was by that time unheard of. Okay, so we are attached to the world. The internet, the technology, makes it available for everywhere, that you know what's new here and there, and you can find lots of investors and giant economists who are capable to get what the top technology from abroad to be in Egypt in here.
Research and development. In the past, we did not recognize the value of doing proper R&D before you set up a factory, a business, whatever it is. How do you see us moving on that front? Because some people still feel that I don't need to invest a lot of money in this stage of research, so to speak.
Yeah, again, it's a matter of culture, as you said. The people, think that, they can just, import what there and it's enough for them, and think of making, benefit, the soonest he can, and so. But it's a matter of culture and being changed. I'm in touch now with so many, projects, and so whether industrial and construction, and I see the people are spending a lot on the R&D now because they know that this saves a lot of money, and planning and studying and making well research before putting a step in the execution direction is now a part of the culture now for any investor, and you can find it in so many locations, industrial and other activities.
Mm-hmm. Innovation. We have lots of young people that have super ideas, super projects, and even in universities. I had before people from Ain Shams University, from the Faculty of Engineering, that came up with just excellent projects. How can we encourage more corporate contribution? I'm not going to say social responsibility here, but some corporate contribution, because there is a limit to what the government can do. And when it comes to innovation, you also have to have the private sector adopt some of those great ideas.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, you are talking about a point which I'm involved personally at the moment now, which is the innovative or innovation hub. We are constructing at the moment in Ain Shams University a huge, building and organization which is named Innovative Hub or Innovation Hub. This will be kind of incubator to take all these young professionals who have good and smart ideas to implement in cooperation with the corporation. As you said, if you look to the design, this area is allocated for the corporates, this area is allocated for the professors, this area is allocated for the staff, and even there is an area with some tools and equipment, okay, to enable the students or the innovators to implement their ideas. So the way of thinking, the thoughts are changing, but we need to explore what's going on with the research centers and universities which are leading this kind of activity and development.
Who should be funding? Because whenever I talk to young people about those innovations, there is always the problem of we need funding to even complete the research. We want to do a prototype, and this requires funding.
The main supporters for that is the industry. And to tell the truth, there are lots of industrial organizations and facilities are supporting our students, even with their senior graduate project for graduations. We can find lots of offers coming from, I can tell in the electrical sector, all the big industrial organizations and corporates are supporting direct and indirect to our senior graduation project students. And of course they're doing the same with the innovation hub. So industry is the main supporters for that, because actually they are the main beneficiary of it. Because any innovative idea will go to them, and they keep an eye on these kind of intellectuals and smart graduates and professionals to take them to their industrial facility and to put them in their system and to make benefit of their ideas and their thoughts.
What message can you direct to graduates? We have people that are wrapping up their high school, for example, right now, or wrapped up their high school, and they're about to go into universities. But sometimes it's very difficult at a young age to choose the right discipline. Engineering is very, very diversified field, and maybe some parts of engineering are no longer what is required for future development. I don't want to say obsolete, but it's better to go into the new disciplines. What advice would you give to those young people that are sort of concerned, what should I study that will be needed 10, 15 years from now?
The first point is not to choose by feeling, to train when they are taking a serious decision in their life, is to base that on information and data. Unfortunately, most of us, take the decision by feeling or by hearing, just hearing about, computer engineering, whatever. For example, it's very attractive words, and so power engineering, civil engineering, whatever, No, I advise our students to choose on basis of information and data. This is one point. The second point is to look to the labor market. It's not just holding a degree. It's just
fitting into the market.
Exactly. How this degree will reflect on my career and standard of living in the future. For example, there are some specialties like pharmacists, for example, or like communication engineers. At certain period of time, most of the people wish to go to this kind of specialty to study.
Yes.
Until it's saturated, and now you can find lots of people who are graduated from whether this discipline or others. Because of the saturation, they can hardly find a job in the market. So when you are selecting a career and the direction, base that on information and data, and part of this information is the labor market and the potential of the degree in the future, how it will reflect to your work.
When you have a 17 or an 18-year-old, it's quite young. What should be done? Since we're talking right now, you're advancing in projects, you are advancing in curriculums, but the one that is supposed to be carrying out the project and studying the curriculum is a student. How can that student make the right choice? Especially since most of the parents are not even familiar with the new disciplines.
Yeah.
When I was studying, certain disciplines in engineering did not exist, for example.
Yeah. This can perhaps be carried out by orientation sessions. And these orientation sessions can be done either in the schools or even in the university. So the orientation is very important to elaborate in front of the students, you know, what kind of directions of education, of degrees and disciplines, you know, the demand here and there, the saturation here and there, the neighboring countries' requirements, and I mean these kind of orientation sessions is very important, whether in the school, can be taken early in the schools, or can be done even in the, you know, first, you know, years or even first weeks in the university, once he is admitted to some university and wish to select or choose among any of the disciplines or specialities inside. So this kind of, again, it's a matter of culture, education, orientation, and although we can say that the internet, the Facebook, the social media now opened lots of windows to these what we call young students, they are not young anymore. I mean, they are, yeah, they are with these kind of facilities, yes, they are open to the whole world and they can read the whole map, and perhaps, you know, at least a big number of them can choose their way now. But we as professors, as educators, we have to do our effort as well, and to make orientations in different media, you know, progress or you know, media message can be, you know, broadcasted to them in order to assist in taking their decision.
Dr. Ibrahim Helal, thank you very much for joining us. Unfortunately, our time is up. I would like to wish you very best of luck for future endeavors and on the positive outlook. And I'd like to again wish our viewers a very, very happy Bayram, and on that note, wish you a very pleasant evening. We'll see you same time next week. Until then, good night.